So, like many other things, the internet and technology has sort of swallowed lots of local news and local newsrooms, and you have a policy about that, and I'd love to hear what your plans are to restore local news to America.
Thank you. Are you a journalist yourself?
No, I'm in high school.
Well, so this is something I'm really passionate about. Over 1,200 local newspapers have gone out of business over the last number of years. And why? Because they used to rely upon classified ads for revenue. And all the classified ads went to the internet and Craigslist, and so the newspapers disappeared. Now, studies have shown that if you do not have a local paper, your engagement with the community goes down, the information you have about how to vote goes down, and then voters become more polarized. So if you believe in democracy, you have to have local journalism. It actually does not function as well without local journalism. So if we believe that local journalism is important, and this infuriates me somehow, that we're pretty much like, hey, there's not a market mechanism to support local papers anymore, so I guess the local papers are going to disappear. If we think that people having local journalism is important, we should be supporting it and supporting a transition to public-private models or hybrid models or philanthropic models, because many, many communities could support a local newspaper if they were satisfied with it being a break-even, or if it were situated as something like the town library, which often has a community bulletin board and people turn to it anyway for information. There are many different ways we can make local journalism sustainable, and I would have a $1 billion local journalism fund that would provide matching grants out of the FCC to help communities find a model that would actually stand the test of time. But we can't just let thousands and thousands of local newspapers disappear and just shrug and say, okay, I guess we're not going to know what's going on. And then when it's voting time, it's like, who knows? I guess I'll just vote this way because that's the way I always voted. That's where we're heading. Democracy needs good journalism to prosper, and if the market will not support local journalism, then the government should. And I will say as a political candidate, I feel like a grade A jerk talking to local journalists, because I'm like, talk about me, talk about my ideas, get the word out about me. And meanwhile, that person's worried about their next paycheck, their newsroom's closing, their newspaper just got bought by a hedge fund. These are real situations. I'm talking about the Des Moines Register, the flagship newspaper of Iowa. They just got bought by a conglomerate that's owned by a hedge fund that's just going to start firing people right and left. So when I go to Iowa and I'm like, hey, Des Moines Register journalist, it's like, I'm running for president. I need to solve your problem. I'm not just here to have you spread the word about my campaign. I'm here to try and fix things. So this really gets me animated. I'm very passionate about it, because it infuriates me that people just ignore the needs of the local journalists when they're having these conversations.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I think I might have gotten a voter. Yes.
I have a question. I just want to thank you because I am a local journalist in this building.
Well, thank you. Now, it's heartbreaking because there's so many young people like him, I suspect, that want to become journalists, but you know what they're told? Don't do it. Yeah. There is no future in it. It's a self-destructive, and so, but they want to. Yes.
This is the fourth paper I worked for. 2 of them are out of business. So you're right.
Yes, under President Yang, there was going to be a renaissance in local journalism because there's no other way for our democracy to function at the local level. There's really no other way. And it's not even that expensive because most of these communities can transition to a break-even public-private partnership or something that's even philanthropically supported. Everyone wants a local paper, and you don't need to have them be huge money makers. The problem is that the hedge funds need to have essentially public company profit margins. So if they get there and say, what's that? You're making 4%? Unacceptable. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired. We're trying to get this up to, whereas in your community, if you got 3 or 4%, you'd be fine. That's great. Oh, as you can tell, man.